The Wednesday week is sponsored by Bentoria.com. That's BENTORIA.com.
Chance here, a great save. Turner from McClare. A terrific goal by Sheridan. Brexman against Jones. Get in. You could have two goalkeepers in there that would have trouble saving that.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to the Wednesday week, the Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm Lord Hillsborough, and with me on the line today we have James. Hello there, James, your boy.
Hey, it's a pleasure to have you back.
Thank you very much.
It's nice to be sat on this side of the desk, not your side of the desk this week.
To be honest, I think you did an absolutely sterling job. There was far too few let's crack-ons, and maybe you could have slipped in one or two more absolutelys, but barring that...
Well, absolutely.
I think a good time was had by all. Victoria, my darling, how the devil are you?
Good evening, my lord. I'm all right, thanks. See you.
Oh, keep smiling, my darling, keep smiling. And, of course, usually we have a little chap that nobody knows about that lurks in the background and listens into the show. But this week, we've managed to drag him out of the shadows. We've only got Rich Davies on with us today. Hey, Richie, old bean.
Hello there, my lord. I thought after 5 years of you mithering me to death about coming on this podcast, I'd not just sit and listen and be all weird and come on live.
When we first started this podcast a lot of years ago, Rich was actually my first port of call to come on this bloody show 5 years ago. And finally...
Why, I've no idea.
But I'm sure, and obviously for those that don't know the name Rich Davies, you'll probably know him a little bit better as Dicky Owl from Twitter and obviously various other outlets as well. So fantastic to have you on eventually, Rich. Thank you so much for joining us properly.
Thank you.
Right then, ladies and gents, so let's crack on, shall we? Because we've got a little bit to get through. First of all, of course, we do have to discuss the Rotherham game. And, oh, crikey. Now, don't get me wrong. It's nice to be charitable to Rotherham. We put money in their buckets. That's brilliant. And it's nice that we kept them going. Do we have to give them points as well? I mean, come on. This is just mean, isn't it?
Well, I think, unfortunately, I'm going to have to pass the mantle on this one. I think you guys are going to have to talk about it because I wasn't there. I missed the game. So, all the fun that you had for those 90 minutes, the constant excitement that ensued that I wasn't part of. Look, tell you what, before the match, I was absolutely gutted not to be going. In the end, on Saturday, I had to thank my sister and my now brother-in-law for picking that date for their wedding because they couldn't have picked a better match to watch it. I met with my mate John after the match, who said it was the worst home performance of the season, and ranted for a good 20 minutes about kind of how bad it was. I watched the highlights on Channel 5. I've not brought myself to watch the official extended club highlights on YouTube.
Don't do it.
I avoided the highlights because it's kind of my little utopia. When Wednesday lose, I go into no football, forget about it, and it's never happened. So I don't get more depressed than I am already.
It's funny that because a lot of people do that with the podcast as well. If Wednesday lose, just don't bother. But I mean, it has to be said, Padil didn't have a great game, did he? That was a little bit disappointing for me. The goal came from that side. The goal itself was terrible defending, really, wasn't it? We really should be doing better with that kind of thing.
It was awful, wasn't it? It was really bad.
I think from my perspective, the goal was coming for a while. We did look dodgy when they got out wide and they were crossing the ball in and making us look, Warnock did a job on us. I knew about, as soon as we was appointed for Rotherham manager, it was like, oh no, here we go. Warnock. He's here again, just to spoil the party.
I don't want to give them too much credit, though, because they were bloody awful as well. It was just a horrible game of football. It was absolutely dire.
They just parked the bus in the second half.
Yeah, I think Warnock came with a plan, didn't he?
Yeah, and defended really, really well, to be fair to them. And we just couldn't get through it. And frustrating game.
I think the keeper had a decent game, to be fair. What's his face? Mr. Keeper Man had a decent enough game. I thought he a few decent saves. Again, we weren't great, but again, we have to have, and I'm loath to sort of talk about this again, and it's been going round and round and round, the goals that weren't, quite simply. First goal, I mean, the linesman didn't move when it went in. There was no flag, no nothing on there.
Oh yeah, forgot about that. That was terrible.
And I honestly think that the pressure from the Rotherham players swayed that goal. And it to me, bang out of order. Absolutely bang out of order. Initially, we thought, obviously, it had been disallowed because it had gone out, which it hadn't done. And then the offside, to me, watching the replays, because I do watch replays even when we do lose, because I'm a proper fan. To me, it didn't look like offside at all when the ball was kicked. So I think perfectly good goal, disallowed.
It was interesting for me because I was following the match on Twitter. Certainly during the first half, I managed to catch about the last 20 minutes on the commentary. But yeah, first half I was following on Twitter, and that whole kind of period when the goal was obviously was initially given, then it wasn't given, and then there were a lot of people, kind of journalists and the like, who were at the match who were tweeting saying, "Yeah, looking on the replay, it is clearly offside." And then gradually people start saying, "Actually, after watching the replay again, it actually looks like it's level." And then when you do watch it and you think, "Yeah, I mean that's pretty clearly level, isn't it?" I think the issue was something to do with the linesman being
a tit.
He couldn't see.
Shit.
He couldn't. Yeah, he was a tit. That's fine. We'll leave it at that. I think that's the truth. Look, I don't know. I mean, we're just having that period of just things just aren't going our way. And yeah, we probably didn't deserve to get anything out of that Rotherham game, because I think they from what I've seen, they played better. They were a lot more positive on the attack, whereas we seem to be suffering from this thing where we're trying to walk the ball into the back of the net at the moment, and it's not gonna work for us. But we're not getting the rub of the green at all, are we? We're just not.
No, not at all.
We're not. But like I said, I don't think we deserved it. I think we were really, really poor. There wasn't anybody that I could say was over a 6 out of 10 on Saturday. It was terrible. Even people, like Barry Bannon, we don't like to slate him. New Hugh, we always stick up for him. Hooper was awful as well. They were all just really, really poor. And, as much as, fatigue is blamed and whatever else, it's frightening in a way that the games that we don't have Hutch and Forestieri, we are terrible. Because if we lose one of those towards the end of the season, we're screwed. It's not good enough, and we need somebody there. Like last week when we were talking about, do we need to bring anybody in on loan? And I said no, and actually we do, because we've not got that meat behind the bones, really. Once the bare bones of the team is out there, it's not good enough.
Oh, I do like a bit of meat behind my bones. Oh, my word. No, I understand exactly what you're saying, Vic. I mean, had Forestieri been playing in that game, the link-up between sort of defence and attack just wasn't there. Again, Poodle had a terribly off game. It's very unusual for him as well. And a lot of his passes just out from the back were just either overhit and hard to control. And there was one point he was running with the ball and quite simply just fell over. And it was just odd, wasn't it?
The one player that did put the effort in, though, and I've got to say, he didn't play well by any means, but he really tried, was Wallace. He really put a shift in on Saturday. It wasn't good, but he seemed to be the only one right up to the last minute that had his head up and was still trying. Everyone else had kind of given up, gone home, forget about it. And also a massive shout out to Neil Warnock, because he was on form. He was brilliant yet again. He was awesome. And actually, after the match, he was really respectful and, smug, yes, but who wouldn't be? If it was the other way around, you would be.
You can't be respectful and smug at the same time, surely. That's an utter oxymoron.
As respectful as Eddie was last week, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. But no, again, of course, we did sort of hit the crossbar, rattle one off there as well, and then there was the other goal that was deemed to be offside because it came off the keeper when it went to Hooper, which is, again, as far as I'm aware, if it comes off the keeper, he's not offside. But maybe I'm wrong about that. But I don't know. It was just a match to be forgotten, wasn't it? Then, of course, as Vic said, Warnock had his fun afterwards. I did see a cracking tweet, actually, which I did mean to mention, from a chap called Rob O'Neill over there on Twitter, which said, Warnock is a swear word, but annoyingly good at what he does. But I doubt he's ever kissed a girl, which is fair enough, I suppose, really.
Pretty sure he's got children.
It doesn't mean he's kissed anybody, hubby. But no, fair play to Rotherham. Of course, the cracking result the other night against Middlesbrough. And I don't dislike Rotherham as a club. I really, really don't. It's one of those clubs that, like Fudge said, when we were growing up, if Wednesday were away and had nothing else to do, I'd pop to and have a little watch of them quite happily. But I don't know. They're just cocky little chuffers these days, aren't they?
I don't share your sentiments at all, my lord.
Really?
Really, really make my shit itch, Rotherham. And there's me swearing on my first podcast.
Oh, don't worry. We've had breaks for long enough now. I think, we used to beep out the swearing, but unless it's sort of Eddie level swearing, we just
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of conversation for me, I'm afraid.
But no, it is what it is. It is disappointing, of course it is. I for one, and again, I apologise for this. I expected us to win that game. Maybe I was getting a bit too big for my boots on there, and that's fair enough. Maybe that's what happened with the players as well. Maybe they turned up and expected to win. Bannon did pop a tweet out after the match, essentially apologising for the performance, admitting that it just wasn't good enough. I don't know if you guys sort of caught Carlos's interview after the match as well, where he essentially said that he couldn't talk about his feelings too much about the game and the officiating because he would get into trouble for doing that, and he works very hard for his money and he doesn't want it taken off of him. I think we can all glean more or less what that means. We have to take any Carlos's money, can't we? Essentially, just not too pleased at all.
I think, it's a dignified silence, I guess, but at the end of the day, someone's got to speak out at some point. There were a couple of really, really bad decisions yet again. And Poodle actually, I think it was in the second half, actually got booted in the face and was down on the floor for like 2 minutes and the referee played on. And he got a full boot to the face. As far as I could see from where I was sat, like I said, I've not watched the highlights. Don't know if he just kissed him. But it looked pretty bad. But then 2 minutes later, their guy went down with a head injury, in inverted commas, and it was stopped. And there are things like that maybe happen against us occasionally and happen for us every week, and we don't moan about it because we don't realise. But at some point, there's got to be some sort of investigation into the refereeing standards in this league.
No, absolutely.
It's not just in this league. Even down to levels I watch with my other hat, with my Hallam FC hat on, the refereeing is abysmal right the way throughout.
As a fan, it's easy to say, isn't it? It's easy to moan afterwards and blame the referee. And, and like I said, probably every single week, I bet other fans go home against us and say the referee did this, this and this. And if it's not gone against us, we don't notice. But that disallowed goal was a joke. That just, like you said, the reaction from the Rotherham players changed that decision as far as I could see. And that shouldn't be the case. But can we also give a big shout out to Richard Wood for doing what he does best and being shit and just pulling everyone down because he couldn't get hold of the ball?
There was a wonderful little bit in the game where Richard Wood was running with Newhu and clearly pulled him over, simple as that. Jumped up and he started making the diving signal that Newhu had dived. And I was like, you, what a tail. I'm sure I used to like you when you were at Wednesdays, and now you're just a bit of an idiot.
He's a Wednesday fan. I can't get it. I know you've got to be professional, and I get that. And I get, if you score against us, if Jamie Vardy came back tomorrow and scored a hat-trick against us, I fully expect him to celebrate because we screwed him over, he left us, he's moved on. Like you would if you worked for any company and you'd do a deal that's beat your old company, you'd be excited. But he's still a Wednesday fan. I know he's from Leeds, but he's from Ossett. But no, they're Wednesday fans. And it's just, no, you shouldn't, just don't be an arsehole, Richard. We didn't hate you, we didn't like you, but we felt a bit sorry for you that you were back at Rotherham. Not you.
Give me first time, give me a bollocking,
But no, let's try to be dignified about this, and it's just not fair. But let's try and be dignified about it. But again, the game I was more worried about, I must admit, was of course the Brighton game. I'd have snatched anybody's hand off for a point at this game, but to be honest, at the end of Brighton match, I was disappointed to come away with just a point, if I'm honest, because it was a belting game, really, wasn't it?
I'm hoping for the James update on this, because all I saw was the scores. I was at work last night. Well, I was at work, but it was a wine and cheese tasting evening, so it's kind of work.
So it wasn't work at all.
But yeah, so I didn't see any of it because I was too busy working. So Jamesy, old boy, what was it like?
You obviously know how much of games that I actually see in
dear.
general, which is not very much. No, on paper it sounds like, kind of the statement of it took us about 4.5 hours to get down there for a 90-minute football match, to drive back, which took another 4.5 hours straight after the game for a 0-0 draw. Doesn't sound like a good return, does it? But it was a good game of football. Lots better from the performance against Rotherham. I thought we were a lot more solid. We looked more like ourselves, and I know Carlos said the same in his post-match interview, where he kind of said that we looked like we were kind of getting back to normal, which is good. We looked a lot more dangerous coming forward. Their keeper made a couple of good saves. It's not, we weren't banging on the door or anything like that, but we could have nicked it. We could have won that game. Second half felt like it was all us. It was just wave after wave of us coming forward without really troubling them all that much. Got to say, I thought Tom Lees had a really good game. Hutch, I mean, this goes without saying, but great to have him back, and he made such a difference. And we've said this tons of times. We're just not the same team without him there. And I thought for his first game back, he played really well. What else to say? I saw a lot of people praising the fullbacks, because obviously we changed the back four. We played Palmer and we played Bennett. I actually thought Palmer looked a little bit shaky at times, but a lot of people were kind of really bigging him up and saying they had a good game. Thought he had a couple of wayward passes, but that's probably it.
I know Martin Wire, of course, erstwhile musician type fellow from the 80s, Heaven 17 legend, said that Palmer, quite simply, he'd rather see him in there than Hunt at the moment. Yeah, well,
Hunt, I hear that Hunt was kind of the worst of the bunch against Rotherham, that he was really poor against Rotherham. And we all know that Hunt's great coming forward, but defensively, he is lacking. And Palmer is probably the opposite. Palmer's quite good defensively, but maybe not the kind of person that you want coming forward, because he doesn't always play the right ball.
You think this is why sort of Carlos has got him, obviously played Palmer against Hull as well? Do you think against these sort of higher thought of teams, he's trying to sort of lock that up a little bit more? We all know that Carlos is not exactly what you call a defensive coach. He doesn't value clean sheets or anything at all like that, so long as we've outscored them. He doesn't seem too bothered, does he? But obviously, he must rate Palmer for trying to keep people out.
Well, it worked as well, didn't it? Because we went to Hull, who have this season, they were top of the league when we went there. They'd been scoring goals for fun, and we kept them to 0, and we did exactly the same at Brighton last night. And let's remember that Brighton had scored 4 goals in their previous 2 games, so eight goals in 2 games. They were scoring goals for fun, really.
Absolutely.
So to go there and keep a clean sheet is no mean feat. And it was actually better than that, because they had 0 shots on target. They had 0 successful crosses into the box. We really did shut them out. And certainly on paper, I think it would look like a fairly one-sided affair that last night.
And it's brilliant to see. I mean, it's just so frustrating that we played that well against teams like Brighton. If we'd have played that well against Rotherham, we'd have trounced them, wouldn't we? We'd have absolutely destroyed them. It is kind of worrying a little bit. It's only a little bit when you see people like Zamora and Lawala coming off the bench and people like this. And I must admit, I was getting a little bit squeaky bum towards the end on there, but not as much as I should have been, really, because I just think we did control a lot of the game, didn't we?
They had a period of the last 5 minutes or so where it felt like it was them putting the pressure on us. But apart from that, we didn't seem troubled in the second half all that much. They're obviously a good team, Brighton, and when they came forward, they played the ball around quite well. I think we closed them down quickly, and we stopped them getting balls into the box, which is clearly, we must have identified that as being an area where they do grab a lot of goals from, because it was something that we were very quick to shut out. I thought it was quite interesting with Matthias, or however we're supposed to say it now, Matthias. Matthias. It was interesting seeing him play, and I thought he was quite an interesting case last night, because there were times where I thought he looked really good, but as it got towards kind of the hour mark, and we were like, we're going to have to change it, and it's going to have to be Matthias that comes off. Because it didn't look hugely dangerous, but there was something there. And I just find him an interesting case now, Matthias. What is his role going to be? What is he going to do for us now?
I've kind of always seen him as sort of a fragile player, if you like. He's I don't know. I just don't think he's quite ready for the British game of sort of jumping in and getting stuck in. I mean, he did get a yellow card yesterday, and there were some decent tackles. It's the first time I've really noticed him making tackles. But you're right. He's an odd one, isn't he? He doesn't seem to sort of have a slot into the team as yet.
Bearing in mind that we didn't play vastly less for him than we played for Forestieri and Hooper. Really,
Absolutely.
He was a £2 million player. I guess maybe that what we've got to do this season is just kind of write this season off a little bit to experience for Matthias and say, look, he's obviously I'm guessing he's relatively young. He's going to be kind of mid-20s, something like that. Maybe next season he comes good, assuming that we're not in the Premier League next season. It is difficult to see at the moment exactly where he's going to fit in moving forward now.
I think if you look at all the players that we brought in this summer, and you think, right, ideally you'd love every single one of them to hit the ground running and be an absolute success, but reality is it doesn't work out. Daryl Lackman for a start. Some just don't work out like that. It just takes a bit of time, and whether next season will be a season or not remains to be seen.
Oh, so it's the old adage, can they do it in a cold, rainy night in Brighton? Yeah, maybe not at the moment on there. And that might be sort of, I mean, obviously we're all used to the passionate derbies, and again, I'm still a little bit loath to call Rotherham a derby, but obviously a lot of these sort of players that come from abroad, do you think they really do feel that passion from the fans? Do you think they really do get involved in the derby sense of it, or is it, to them, is it just another match against some strange team?
I think against Rotherham, to be fair, like you said, I don't think many of us particularly see it as a derby. I see Leeds and Sheffield United as a derby, possibly even Huddersfield because I'm this end of town. But to me, it's not necessarily a derby. I often forget that they're in the same league. It's just, it's one of those things. So you can't really expect the players to be as pumped up as they would be running out against Leeds or running out against Sheffield United. It was just a bad day at the office, and at the end of the day, yes, it's probably our only real derby in the league apart from Leeds, but we'll get over it. It's fine.
Of course, after the game as well, Carlos's sort of post-match, the very first thing he mentioned on his post-match is that he would like to congratulate the referee on a wonderful game, which I thought was a bit of a slight dig to previous games. But you can't really argue him. And obviously we've moaned about the officials from previous games, but I thought the ref did very, very well. If there's nothing to speak about and the football flows, then we do need to sort of congratulate the refs when they do a decent game as well, don't we?
Yeah, and he had an opportunity if he wanted to put his stamp on the game, because I don't know exactly what happened, but there was some incident in the first half. He had the opportunity if he wanted to. He could have sent off Lucas Zhao, which he didn't do. He calmed everything down, and we got back to normal. And that you will get referees that get the chance and take the chance to put their stamp on the match and do something like that. And he didn't. There was some common sense there, so I think that was good.
Yeah, just to sort of fill in on that incident, I think Zhao had been tackled, and while he was on the floor, he did a bit of a kick out, a bit of a Beckham, if you like, on there.
A bit of a Beckham.
And,
who would have thought it from Sheffield Wednesday? At least we're getting a little bit closer.
Yeah, we can foul people really well.
Just like Beckham.
Belt him like Beckham. But no, James, absolutely spot on. The ref could have made a big song and dance about that, but he did really well to sort of keep it under his hat. It was a bit of a flashpoint. It could have been much worse than it did. And barring that, I think the game flowed beautifully. So fair play to Mr. Ref. Again, I apologise. Let's have a little. Oh, it was Drysdale, wasn't it, last night? Down Drysdale last night. Yes. So another thing we have to mention, of course, while James is here, the actual support down at Brighton. What was it? 1,400, something like that, 1,400.
It was about 1,500, which I mean, it is an epic trip down there. However you do it, especially to get there for an evening match. Travelling down on a Saturday, less so, but when you've got to get through rush hour on the M25, it's a hell of a journey. So, real credit to all the fans that went down last night. The atmosphere was really good. It's a nice little stadium, to be fair. It's a good little ground. It's quite an odd shape. It's one of those that it's not like a completely boring symmetrical football stadium. It's got a bit of personality to it, and it lends itself to getting some nice atmosphere going. Unfortunately, the weather was rubbish, and I was on the third row where we were getting quite wet, so it wasn't quite as much fun at the front of the stand as I think it was at the end of the stand. I've got to mention as well, Brighton, just some really nice touches that the club have got. That they anyone that's never been before, they personalise the away end, like the concourse, to whichever club they're playing. So above the bar, they've got the Sheffield Wednesday club logo, albeit effectively the old one rather than the new one. But they had that up above all the bars. They got some really nice signs in the toilet when you're in there saying thanks to the supporters for making the 460-mile round trip and stuff like that. Just some really nice touches there, and I thought that was really good. And they sell real ale at the bar, which is I've never known an away club that sells real ale. They have their own real ale. It was a bit crap, but Southern beer. What do you expect? But better than bloody Foster's.
I think it was Manchester City, actually, like one of the last away games I went to pre-Preston. And they had posters up like saying, thank you for making the X amount of hours journey and safe trip home and whatever. And it does make it feel a little bit less hostile, if that's the right word.
Yeah, I think it's nice.
It makes it feel like a nice day out.
Away ends are normally like the end of the stadium that they've not done anything with for 20 years, where the toilets leak and it's all it's you can't actually queue for a beer because there's not enough room. The whole thing's just been built wrong. Whereas there, it kind of felt like they really cared about your experience in the stadium. So fair play to them for that. Apparently, I mean, we obviously got off straight after the match, but apparently at full time they reopen all the bars in the concourse and they continue serving after the match. So if you want to hang back rather than getting caught in traffic, you can stay behind, have a drink. I think they show Sky on the TVs there. So yeah, I think overall quite a good experience. And they have blue and white nets. That's why we did all right there. They've got blue and white nets.
Well, you even got a mention on the dare I say it, the Alstoke podcast this week about blue nets as well.
Yeah, well, it's all true. Blue nets are our problem.
Right, so just so before we do finish off the Brighton game, of course, on Twitter, James, apparently in the away end, before the game, there was some rumours about an accident and some awful happenings with Wednesday fans on there. It was all over social media. Luckily, it wasn't true. There had been some car crashes, which is, of course, incredibly unfortunate, but there were no fatalities, there were nobody sort of badly injured. There was some walking wounded on there. So I must admit, I had to sort of stop myself doing my normal nonsense tweets just to make sure I didn't sort of tread on anybody's toes or anything at all like that. But it's brilliant to hear that that didn't happen, of course. One thing that did annoy me quite a lot actually throughout the game, the commentator from Radio Sheffield, I think it was Jonathan Bunchybants that was commentating. Lovely chap, I'm sure, but stop saying in and around before every chuffing sentence. When he mentioned the crashes, he said there's been some crashes in and around the Amex Stadium. Now, how can there be crashes in the chuffing Amex Stadium? They don't drive through there, do they, Jonathan? So stop saying in and around. And then you mentioned that there'd been the Wednesday players in the box in and around Stockdale. If you're in Stockdale, it's a red card. You can't go putting yourself in the keeper. So please, for Christ's sake, commentators, stop saying in and around.
That was one of my favourite ever anti-BBC rants there. Well done. It's normally me that ends up doing...
I'm not anti-BBC. I'm anti-people saying in and around because it's just you're not in and around a goalkeeper. It's wrong. It's bad. If you're in a goalkeeper, even in Brighton, there's something wrong.
What have I come back to here? I only went upstairs to see why the dog had gone quiet.
Was he in and around the toilet?
No, she had just eaten through my entire makeup bag. So she currently has a very pink face where she's applied blusher to herself.
Now, you see, that is the literal, she has makeup in and around her. That's how you use that, Jonathan. That's exactly how you use that phrase. Oh, no. Jeeves, we're going to need some more equipment.
Then you need to speak to Oddballs, a speciality.
What the?
Oddballs, a speciality dealing steel, food, and engineering equipment.
Where's that voice coming from?
We offer great deals on all types of equipment and can include dismantling, delivery and erection anywhere in the world.
Did he just say erect?
We can also buy your surplus equipment or sell it on commission. With over 30 years experience, let us achieve the best deal for you.
Where can I find out more, Voice in the Sky?
Go to www.bentoria.com.
You heard him, folks. Jeeves, get a broom. Right then, ladies and gents, so let's carry on with the show, shall we? And the next thing we need to mention is a rather brave interview, I think, that Hutch did with The Sun this week. And, of course, we all have our feelings about the different newspapers, etc., etc., etc. But this, I thought, was brilliant. Hutch, which obviously none of us really knew about, has suffered from depression and is still essentially suffering with depression, which obviously depression can hit anybody, anytime, no matter what profession, what your bank balance is like, anything at all like that. But for a footballer to come out and discuss this whilst he's still in the game, and playing football in what is, to be honest, quite a masculine environment, isn't it? I think it's just so incredibly brave of him to do that.
He is. It's like you said, you can't put a price or a lifestyle on depression. It does hit everybody, and well, most people at some point. And he is a very, very brave man. And I just hope that this is a sign of things to come. That people can stand up and say, yeah, I've had depression. So is 1 in 3 of us, I think, as far as I know. I've been on tablets for it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's a normal thing. Unfortunately, it hits some people, and it's just the way that our human brains are wired up. And I think to come out and say it and to be so honest about it is really, really refreshing. And hopefully as well, he will give a bit of courage, if you like, which is probably the wrong word, actually, because you're not brave if you've not got depression. So hopefully give a bit of hope to anyone else in that sort of situation, especially young footballers. They are, as much as we say they've got the lifestyle, for every one that makes it, there are 10 that get a career-threatening injury like he did, or get thrown off at the last minute, and get let out of an academy at 18 years old with no qualifications and an entire career promised to them. And it's bound to cause problems. But also, hopefully, it'll help, the odd bloke in the stand that's struggling, or the odd woman in the stand, and make people realise that it can get anybody. And like you said, it doesn't matter if you're rich, it doesn't matter if you're poor, male, female, footballer, butcher, baker, whatever. It can hit people. And I think he was really, really brave. And what he said was really brave to do. He did do an article, I think it was last year now. He spoke to the Daily Mail about it. But as he said in this recent one, he wasn't as honest as he could have been. And he just kind of glossed over it. And this time he really has spoken about it. And I think that's great. Hopefully this will be the start of people not being afraid to be who they are. And, we've heard rumours that there are a couple of footballers next season going to come out as gay. And, if one comes out as trans, I'm not bothered. Just do your job on the pitch, do your job in your life. And as long as, there's people there around you, good on him.
Yeah, I'd echo that. And Hutch is someone that I've got a lot of time for Hutch. I think obviously he's a great footballer. I think he's got really nice hair, but I think he's also shown what a real gent he is. Because as you guys have said, doing something like this when you're still in the game is a relatively brave thing to do, because it's the kind of thing that your teammates could give you a little bit of stick for, and I don't think they will. But maybe once upon a time, it wouldn't be all right for footballers to kind of talk about feelings and stuff like that. And it was really honest. I've always thought that Hutch does give really honest interviews, and it's one of the reasons why I've got a lot of time for him. I think he's a very straightforward person. He obviously appreciates where he's at now, considering where he's been in the game and what he's been through. And really appreciates the fact that he's happy playing his football now, and he's obviously having a much better time than he was. And real credit to him for doing that, and for being honest and speaking out. And I think a couple of people made the point on Twitter that we as football fans seem to think that we have a real right to really lay into players. Either our players or opposition players. We really, really lay into people, and every so often we've got to just stop and remind ourselves they are human beings. Yeah, they get paid a lot of money, so they're part of that is because they do take that stick and they do take that crap from people. But don't forget that they are humans as well.
No, it's one of the things I've said once or twice is if I came to your work, James, and followed you around with even just 10 people, and every time you, I don't know, clicked a wrong key on the computer or spilt a bit of coffee, we all just screamed at you because you're an idiot and da.
No shit.
No, that happens every day.
Yeah, and it happens with me on Twitter all the time when I spell your instead of your or any other nonsense thing that I do. But if everybody does these little mistakes at work, essentially, and don't get me wrong, I've got frustrated with players before. I don't boo at football matches, but I have been frustrated, and I suppose if you're on the pitch and even if you just do something slightly wrong and you hear that sort of echoes around the ground, it must. They're not robots, are they? They are people, and it's got to affect you. It really, really has.
I think all footballers are role models, and when people have the bravery to come out like this and actually say they've got an issue, it kind of makes kind of kids look at them and think, I shouldn't be kind of upset to have an opinion or to be different or to say, look, I've got an issue, help, shout out for a bit of help. And obviously that's part of his kind of rehabilitation is to talk about it. And you can't go much better than getting it in, a national newspaper and pretty much getting, national coverage on that. So fair play to the guy.
Absolutely. I mean, we've put up with a lot of, excuse my terminology here, but a lot of knobhead footballers because they're good at football. And footballers get away with a lot of that side of the spectrum. So why on earth? I don't understand the reasons, but if a footballer was going to come out as gay or does have essentially mental health issues or anything at all like that, as Vic said, if they're doing the job on the pitch, the fans will love you. If you're wearing their colours, you're wearing the shirt that you wear week in, week out, the fans will love you. We've put up with utter tales at Hillsborough, and we've screamed them on because they're good at football. So again, well done, Hutch. Personally, I applaud you. I think it's very, very brave. I think it's brilliant what you've done, and I hope it does help other people to do a similar sort of thing. So well done, Hutch. Top class.
Let's just hope it also helps other people to go to their doctors and get help as well if they're feeling the same thing. Because it's all right, people who've come out the other side like me saying, we've all been there and whatever else. But if you're feeling that bad, you go to your doctor. There's no shame in it. If Hutch can do it, anyone can do it.
And if you're really, really feeling bad or anything, just don't listen to the Owls Talk podcast because it'll just make you feel shocking. And I'm going to do a story about that in the Sun next week. Next little bit of Wednesday news, of course, Mr. Badil, although we have just been mentioning that he didn't have the best of games against Rotherham, he has been called up for his country once again, hasn't he? And I think one of the teams that he's going to play against, if he does get selected to play, of course he has been selected for the squad, would be Scotland. And of course, if Mr. Bannon gets his call up as well, that'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
Yeah, who would we be cheering on as Wednesday fans? Because Padil's not our player, is he? But he's not our player. He plays for Wanderers.
But if we cheer him on, he might be our player.
We couldn't cheer.
They've got Bannon now. Sod Bannon. He's signed up.
I don't think I could bring myself to cheer Scotland on.
No, I'm with you.
I don't mind the Scots. I really don't. I'll always cheer Scotland on when they're.
I don't mind the Scots, not in the slightest. I'm not Scottishist. Please don't think that. It's just I don't want to cheer them on in sport. Crikey! I mean, it's like trying to cheer on
Australia.
Exactly. It's just wrong and bad. It feels dirty.
But it's all right to cheer on Ireland, isn't it?
Yeah, because we know that they're a bit rubbish. But
it's like celebrating St. Patrick's Day, isn't it? And all that.
And it's Ireland and the Irish, and they're lovely and crazy and mental, and they drink enough to make me worried.
You see, Scotland do all those things apart from the lovely bit, and if they had that lovely bit, the drinking and the craziness and everything else would be lovely. But it's not. It's Scottish.
But they've got deep fried Mars bars and black pudding. What more do you want?
Yeah. And they have Mr. and Mrs. Bannon as well.
Yeah, they're lovely.
And they are lovely.
They're truly, truly lovely, aren't they? Yeah, in that case, you've changed my mind. Stuff the Czech Republic, I'm shouting for Scotland.
When did this turn into an episode of Room 101?
I have So let's crack on quickly, shall we? There's nothing like a quickie, cracky onny. And James, I believe you've got a few little bits for us this week. The return of James's little bits.
Yeah.
Oh, I do love your little bits.
Don't we all?
Well, I've got a few, and they're all pretty like crap things. But I noticed that the club were advertising before the Rotherham game that they're now opening a new little retail unit thing behind the back of the South stand on match days, selling kind of merchandise and stuff like that. Did anyone see it?
Unfortunately not.
No.
I was just interested in whether or not it was actually just the program hut that's
Yeah, I
normally
was going to
there.
say that's what we used to have back in the day when I was there. We set it up as a retail thing.
I just thought
Possibly.
it was quite a good move, that, because if you sit on that kind of side of the ground and you want to buy yourself a shirt or whatever, it's a heck of a trek right over to the shop. So yes, good move, as long as it's not just the program hut with some t-shirts shoved in. Probably is.
It's like the old program. The program, was it Mick Brodie? Was it his program shop that used to be outside the mega store? It was literally one of the program books. How you could hold a whole program store out of there, I'm not sure, but you know.
I wonder if we ever gave up the lease on those camper van things that we had. Back in 2009, when I was there, we got loads of like merchandise, sort of like trailers that we just dumped to each stand. So maybe we're going to bring those back.
Yeah.
You never
Good
know. I
plan.
mean, didn't they have the shop in the middle of Sheffield for a while as well that lasted not
Yeah.
a terrible large
Orchard
amount of time?
Square. Yeah, I used
Wednesday
to love
Gear
that.
it was called, wasn't
Wednesday
it?
Gear.
I remember it well.
Get all your
That's-
Toby jugs and your gnomes.
That's the kind of thing I can imagine them doing though now, because he's quite clued up, isn't it, on business stuff, is Mr. C. So I could see that kind of thing happening. And heck, if it's bringing more money and if it's raising the profile of the club, why not?
I think, Victoria, did you have another email from the club this week regarding some of the wonderful merchandises that they're producing?
I did indeed. Hold on a second. Let me get this open. Right, this is, and I quote, must-have merchandise.
Oh, well,
This
if we
isn't
must
just
have
a
it.
sale. This isn't just a sale. It's a must-have Sheffield Wednesday
It's
sale.
obligatory.
So, I mean, how much are you looking to spend, guys? Just throw me a number out there.
£17.76.
£17.
Around £3.20 for me.
£3.
You're all about-
Well, James, funnily enough, you could get a Sheffield Wednesday water bottle for £3.20 this
wow.
For
week.
exactly
Down from
£3.20.
£5.
What
Or
if I push my budget up to £4?
you could get yourself a knitted tie. That is a knitted tie.
To be fair.
Or a dart accessory set or a bottle opener, which actually is quite good. I might get that. Fridge magnets, they're still going. Mini scarves, still going. For the £17, you could get a golf gift tube and 4 pencils
A what now?
and still have yours a golf gift tube.
What the chuff is in a golf gift tube?
It looks like some
Balls.
golf tees and a golf ball and something with Wednesday on. And if you wanted to spend the extra £2, you could get yourself 4 pencils and keep your 76p. There is also the option of a duffel bag at £16. Or if you really, really want to live the dream, the 14-15 review DVD is down from £18. £18
That's 17.
to £10.80. So, but who the hell paid £18 for that shit? I mean, seriously, come on.
May I ask a question, Victoria?
You may.
This merchandise, does it happen to have the old badge on it?
It does. It does. That's a very good point. Maybe that's why we're getting rid of all this crap.
Is this stuff they're just trying to shell off quickly before the club crest changes? And
Well, I
it's
don't
just
know, because the Jackie Robinson story doesn't have the old club badge on, and that is half price at just £5 this
To be
week.
fair, that's not bad.
Well, all right.
You're not selling it to us, Vic.
I actually feel tempted to buy the knitted tie purely on the basis that it started at £15 and now it's
Yes,
only
it
£4.
It
So
has
it's the
actually.
biggest saving.
Bloody hell.
Purely for that
doesn't
reason.
Look great.
It looks crap. It looks like a sock turned inside out. It looks
Yeah,
rubbish.
I'm
you say
clicking on it
knitted-
now, so bear with me.
When you say knitted, is it like hand knitted, or are we talking? Or
No.
It's
been done in
knitted
China,
by
won't it?
Barry Bannon's Nanan.
In her caravan.
in a caravan, yeah.
A caravan.
I tell you what, I'm going to get Jeeves knitting some ties for next season with that Creston already. Jeeves, get your knitting needle, boy. There's money to be made in this knitting game.
Something else that we talked about last week that I just want to revisit for a second. We had the discussion about the worst 11 from the last 5 years, which prompted some really, really good suggestions on social media. We had some great tweets from people, dragging up players that we brought in on loan and stuff like that, and some really bad ones. And that got onto a brilliant discussion then about collective nouns for really bad former players. So if you had like a group of Steve Howards together, it would be a crock of Steve Howards.
No. Stevie Howard was by far the best striker that Sheffield Wednesday have ever had at their football club. Just ask Beastie.
Yeah, I was going to say thanks, Beastie. And my personal favourite, which was a scrotum of John Bez Weathericks.
That's been kind to him.
Maybe a little bit harsh.
Two other things. After last night, Barry Bannon now has 4 different songs. Now, I know we like him, and I know when he first came, we were like, oh, we need a song for him. He now has 4. So he has Walking in a Bannon Wonderland,
Yes.
obviously the Smokey Next Door to Alice version that we did, the Proclaimers song, and then last night, the Human League, Don't You Want Me, Barry Bannon, baby. That was born last night as well. So he now has 4 songs. I think he's been greedy.
Don't get me wrong, cracking player. But we've got players out there that need songs. We need an appeal. We need a sort of a pay monthly type appeal for songs for players without songs.
Well, you see, Tom Lees has been an absolute rock for 2 seasons now, and I've never heard a single song about Tom Lees. Barry Bannon's got 4. Now, Barry, if you're listening, just donate 1 of those to Tom Lees. That's all you need to do. Just donate 1 to Tom Lees. Think of your teammates. Just think of them.
Hang on a minute, James. We did a song for Tom Lees on this very podcast, if you remember, Albin.
Did we?
I'm not sure. In fact, it was one that came from Owls Talk before they had their own podcast. We put a little note up on Owls Talk. We got a reply from, I apologise, I cannot for the life remember the chap that posted it, but we did a Lees is Good song.
Oh,
let me remind you of that right now.
It was the shit.
Lees is good, Lees is good. Oh, Tommy Lees is good, Lees is good, Lees is good. Oh, Tommy Lees is good, Lees is good, Lees is good. Oh, Tommy Lees is good, Lees is good, Lees is good. Oh, Tommy Lees is good. Who does Tom Lees sit next to on the coach? Lavery. There you go, James. We don't have to write a song for him. He's already got one. Fantastic.
Very good. I had forgotten about that. So, all we need to do now is get 30,000 Wednesdayites singing that, and we've got it made.
It's never going to happen.
Just one other thing that I want to talk about, and that's I just want to mention a guy called Steve Utley. Now, Steve passed away at the weekend. He was I think he was 58 years old. He used to be media officer at Doncaster Rovers, and he was club photographer there as well.
Oh my God.
Through my work, I worked with him for quite a few years, and generally Steve was kind of considered to be Mr. Doncaster Rovers, but it was a fairly little known fact that he was actually a Wednesdayite. And I do remember when he smuggled me into the away dressing room to meet the Wednesday squad when we played them at the Keat Moat a couple of years ago. Really sad news that came out over the weekend about Steve passing away. He's going to be very sadly missed. I think he's a loss to football as a whole, and obviously thoughts very much with his family at this sad time. And certainly Steve was a character and very well known in football, and someone whose memory will live on for many, many years.
The Wednesday Week is proud to be associated with Cavendish Cancer Care. Cavendish is a Sheffield charity dedicated to improving the quality of life for people living with cancer. No one should face cancer alone, so Cavendish provides emotional support through counselling and complementary therapies. The services they provide are free of charge and are funded through donations. If you can help or would like to find out more information, you can go to www.cavcare.org.uk. That's CAVCARE.org.uk. Right then, gents. So let's let's talk about Forrest.
Should we move on?
You've got me all
Let's progress on to a different subject.
Rather spiffingly.
Yeah, let's have a little chat about the upcoming Forest game, shall we? Of course, Forest were a great team for a bit, weren't they? Even last season and for a little bit of this season, but I have to be careful when I say this now, because it seems that every time we look at these at the moment, we seem to play in a mid-table team, and then they do really well for a bit. When we played Preston, they were a mid-table team, and now they're sort of just slightly above mid-table. Forest are 13th in the league. They are sort of bang mid-table team. And again, after the Rotherham debacle, I'm going to try not to be too dismissive, but we've got a chuffing start winning some games, haven't we, boys and girls? And this has to be the start of a decent run, surely.
We'll be fine against Forest. The problem that we've got is that we can't beat teams in the top 6 and we can't beat teams in the bottom 4. The ones in the middle we do fine against, so yeah, nothing to worry about. Forest are, and I mean this in a respectful way, they are pretty much the bang average team of the Championship this season, because they've gone on a few runs where they've won a few, they've gone on a few runs where they've lost a few. I think they won on Tuesday night, which would be their first win for well over a month. I think they'd lost about 4 or 5 on the trot before that. So they've been up and down this season. Obviously, it's going to be a bit of a write-off for them this season. They've obviously not made the playoffs, which is what they'll have been hoping for, and the way off. But I mean, any team that's kind of reliant on Chris O'Grady as being their main source of goals, you're going to have problems. Love Chris O'Grady to bits, of course, but he's not going to score you goals to get in the top 6, is he?
I mean, we've got a couple of decent strikers over there, actually. Of course, we've got Oliveira. He's a decent striker. And have we still got Matty Fryatt over there as well?
I think they have, actually. Yeah, they signed him last season, didn't they? But I don't think he's done very much.
Shock.
I mean, they still have a Sombalonga, don't they? But he's been out injured for about a year now. He's been out of the game for a long, long time. So, yeah, I mean, as far as I know, that they have been fairly reliant on O'Grady and, is it Oliveira? Who I don't think he's quite to double figures yet, but he scored 8 or 9 goals this season now. So he's probably the danger man. O'Grady obviously will want to get one over on us as well. But we've got nothing to fear. I think we can go there, and if we can play like we did against Brighton, chances are we'll probably get a goal or two, and we can go there. We can fetch 3 points back.
The way I look at a game now is kind of what would you take before the game? So you've got a Hull and you've got a Brighton, and you'd be happy with a draw before the game. You come away with that. And I think Forest should look at it. It's a place where we've got to be coming away with 3 points. And anything less than that, I think we'd be disappointed with it.
Yeah, I think anything less than that, then we've got to start looking at the playoffs in a different light, because we've been through this little patch, and yet we all knew going into the game last night at Brighton we weren't going to go down there and walk it and win 5-0 or anything like that. But Saturday now is the game that we'll look at and say, right, this is a winnable game, and we've gone through this period of bad form. Yeah, we've only scored 1 goal in 5, but we've only conceded 3 goals in 5. This is not a kind of wheels come off situation. It's been unfortunate, and we'd rather have picked up some wins in there. But we're still in 6th place, and we've been a little bit lucky. We with the form that we've been in, we could easily have dropped down to mid-table if other results had gone against us. But we're still 6th. It's still in our hands, and now we've got to say, right, okay, we stop messing about now. We go to Forest, we get the result that we need, because I think if we don't bring back 3 points, we'll start to see the playoffs slipping out of our grasp a little bit.
Oh, of course, we do have to, on that note, thank Bolton for their equaliser against Ipswich, which was wonderful news, because they had
mighty trotters. Go on.
They had a late kick-off as well, and of course that it was a very, very late equaliser after the Wednesday match had finished, and we all thought we were in 7th place, didn't we? And also when they popped that in, we stuck to our little 6 and was sort of clinging on by our fingertips to the playoffs at the moment. You're quite right, James. The goals have dried up a little bit, haven't they? And I mean, is that something that we're worried about yet?
Well, of course we're worried about it, because football's about scoring goals. If you don't score goals, you're not going to win games. But on Tuesday night at Brighton, we did create. We weren't, as I said earlier, it didn't feel like we were on the verge of a breakthrough, but we created chances. We know we've got Forestieri back on Saturday. It's effectively a full strength team there, isn't it? If Hutch is back and Forestieri's back, we've got Hooper, who doesn't become a bad player overnight. He's a goal scorer. He'll be desperate to score, and when he's got the right players around him, he does score more goals when Forestieri is on the field. So it's hopefully the day that it turns itself around on Saturday. At the moment, I don't think there's any need to panic about the goal situation, but I think if we are sitting here next week and it's 1 goal in 6, then maybe it is getting a little bit more towards panic stations then.
I mean, there is one other factor in the last few games that has sort of changed the atmosphere around Sheffield Wednesday Football Club, and that is Joe Cran, friend of the show. He's over from South Africa. Can we just blame all this on Joe?
Yes.
Yeah, I reckon so.
I think so. It's bad luck. Go home.
I had the great privilege of actually meeting Joe last night in Brighton. I had quite a few beers in the car on the way down, so I think I just slathered over him a little bit. But great to finally meet him, and he's going to be at Forrest on Saturday as well. So hopefully we'll have a few beers. Might even be tempted to try and talk him into a bit of a drunken interview as well.
Oh, wave your muff at him, James. That'll get him going.
Marvellous. He's coming to the Charlton game as well, I think, isn't he? So us part-timers can meet him as well.
I met Joe a couple of years ago through my Wednesdayite work when he last came over, I think it was, and so it'll be good to see him again, and hopefully we can have a few beers with him at Charlton and get a win for him as well.
Yeah, and if we don't win, then we can send him packing. We'll just wrap him up in a suitcase and just stick him on a boat. Right then, ladies and gents, so that's just going to bring us to an end for this week's show. Rich, fantastic to finally hear your voice, but if people want to see your tweetage, where can we do that, Albie?
If they want to come and see me, they can see me at Dicky Owl, DICKYOWL, and yeah, that's where I put all my my shit. And of course, obviously on the Wednesday week as well, that TWW cast.
Absolutely. Facebook people, again, we were always rather lax with Facebook, but Richard has taken over. Richard? Oh, we've been very official. Check us out.
Call him David.
Richard has kindly taken over the social media for that aspect as well. So again, we would like to thank you, Rich, because it really has sort of boosted our profile and got the shout out to a few more people as well. So you did a top job, Rich, old boy. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure.
Victoria, my darling, where can people see you and your muff?
Well, there's the question. You can find me on Twitter for a start. No muff, I'm afraid. At Victoria1867. Same goes for Facebook. And I'm usually in the Riverside Cafe pre and post home games.
Yeah, drunken lout. James, my darling, where can people find you, Obi?
Yeah, usual drill. On Twitter at James Marriott. I've realised that I've got really lax at kind of doing sort of live tweets from the pub and stuff before away games. So I'm going to try and do, stick a few photos and stuff on before the Forest game on Saturday. But if you are in Nottingham, if you're one of the lucky, because we only got an allowance of about 1,800, didn't we? It sold out in 24 hours. So if you're one of the lucky fans that got a ticket, hopefully see you there. Come say hi.
And if you do pop over to James's Twitter feed, you'll see a wonderful photo of him in the car being driven to Brighton with his wonderful travel pillow on.
Yeah, do you know what? That was really comfortable, and it was. Yeah, I really needed it. It's true that I was. I don't drive myself places now. You realise this? Obviously, I have a driver to do that.
It's like a chauffeur.
I'm starting to rub off on you, old boy.
Oh dear.
That sounded awfully wrong.
He'd probably rather you didn't.
Just while we're on that subject, can I just say thank you to my mate Mark, who drove us all the way down to Brighton, while we all, his 3 passengers all sat there drinking beer, getting drunk before the game. And obviously he couldn't drink, so he couldn't have a beer at half-time either, and then drove us back, and all 3 of us, within about 10 minutes of setting off back, we all passed out in the car, so he had to drive the whole 4.5 hours back, entertaining himself.
What a pleasure for him.
Oh, Mark.
What a lovely, lovely man he is.
He is lovely.
As long as he wasn't rubbing himself off on you while he was doing that.
I was asleep. Who knows? If I'm asleep, do whatever. Do your worst.
He wishes.
Of course, if you want to get hold of me over there on the Twitter, you can do that at Lord H, that's L0RD_H. You can get hold of the podcast at TWWcast as well. Facebook, of course, pop up there onto Facebook. Now, please, ladies and gents, we sort of brush past this every week, but whilst you are listening to the show, if you're listening on iTunes right now, please do just pop onto there, give us a review, help us spread the word of the show on there as well. We would really, really appreciate it. If you're listening on YouTube right now, just click that little like button. Doesn't cost you anything, not going to do anything, just help us to spread the word of the show so more people can see Victoria's muff and we can get the muff spread all over the world.
Let's just spread it around. Why not? Christ, I don't have much else to do. You might as well get muff out.
It's been a pleasure as always, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very, very much for joining us. Be good, be safe, and we shall see you after 3, ladies and gents. 1, 2, 3. Real
soon.
Fantastic.
There's a chance here. A great save. A turner from McClare. Might come. A terrific goal. Right, Sheridan. Brexman against Jones. Get in. You could have 2 goalkeepers in there that would have trouble with saving that.
Just to finish off the Brighton game, then I did have some more points. I have completely forgot what the chuff they were. Nope, chuff it. Oh well, we'll just finish off that. And of course, if Mr. Bannon gets his call up as well, that'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening then.
It's all right.
I was distracted by something that's going on Facebook.
Phones away, boys and girls.
Sorry, Dad.
Sorry, sir.